Hey guys, Coach Adam with another bikini review. I'm doing this one live, so keep those comments coming so I can read them and get to some of your questions if you have them. But we just got back from the Girl Power Clash Series Girl Power. Awesome show. This year I want to do things a little different and actually talk about the shows and the quality of the shows, especially when it's a good quality show like this. Promoter Joe was just awesome. The prizes were great. The stage was great. He also does one of the very few promoters who does free videos, free video replay and free photos at the shows. So awesome production. Everyone had a great time. It was a cost effective. Everything was all in one spot. It was just an awesome, awesome production. So one of the other shows, if you're on the East Coast, that I'm going to recommend, I want to keep recommending these shows throughout the year. The Wasatch was an awesome show I wanted to recommend because I want you guys to have great experiences. So I'm going to tell you about the shows that I recommend throughout the year, and hopefully you can find one that you want to do. But that is definitely a 5-star show, a couple 5-star shows so far this year, Wasatch being one of them, and then the Girl Power. But let's jump into what you guys want to jump into, the results of the Girl Power show. So I'm going to do this one a little differently. But still trying this new setup and getting some good feedback, but people want the deep analysis on the athletes again. So I'm going to go ahead and go into each athlete on this one individually, starting off with 4th place, Allison Testu. So as you remember, Allison did the Wasatch, and I was talking about how muscular she was and how she came down 4 kilograms for that show. So she is a very muscular bikini competitor, but she is really bringing down that overall muscle. When I saw her at this show, I was like, okay, she's really fine tuning and bringing down that overall muscle. It is not pushing the limits so much in bikini where I'm like, it's kind of a figure girl doing bikini poses. That's not really where I'm seeing her now. I'm seeing her just kind of maxing out the division on her upper body, looking a little bit more complete as a bikini competitor, fitting that criteria a little bit better. And also she's been making some changes to her posing, which I think is very, very necessary for her. I think that's going to be one of the big things to push her over the edge, is getting her posing dialed in. She's in European, she's from France. There is different posing overseas, a little bit different style. But when she's in the American market, it does need to be a little bit more toned down, a little bit more, I don't want to say plain, but less, I guess, theatrics, if you want to call it, in the posing itself. She dropped her step back pose that she was doing before. So there's some things that she's doing in her posing routine already that's making it better. And she just needs to clean it up just a tiny, tiny bit. Now, a couple of things I saw when she was competing that I didn't see before. I saw this show that I didn't see at the other shows, and I wanted to go into it in depth. So first off, let's go into her front pose. We talked about before her front pose being just an awesome dominant front pose on her physique, but her glutes do overpower her a little bit. But she's actually twisted her hips back just a little bit, not sitting in her glutes as much as if you look at her in the Wasatch, she's really sitting those hips a little bit more, making her glutes look even more dominant. Now, she's looking a little bit more balanced with how she's posing. She's not sitting into her hips super, super heavy like before, where you would see this glute just overpower her upper body. It looks a lot better now in this pose where she's tucking her hips just a little bit back. So instead of sitting into them really heavy, she's actually twisting her hips back a little bit, not causing so much dominance of that glute. Now, she does still have very dense, very muscular glutes. But when you look at her upper body and her flow now, her flow is a lot better, and that comes to posing. So all of you out there, I always say, get a good posing coach because it changes everything. It changes your whole look if you have a good posing coach. And I always want to say, there's a lot of other divisions doing posing coaches. You'll get a figure athlete doing bikini posing. You'll get a wellness athlete doing bikini posing. Get a bikini athlete who practices in bikini, who only specializes in bikini, to be your bikini posing coach. But people who actually follow bikini posing and compete as a bikini competitor know it best, because there are so many intricacies that happen in bikini specifically that are so different than the other divisions that it's really hard to specialize in other divisions or be let's say a wellness pro or a figure pro and learn bikini so well that you're going to pick up on these minute little things that are going to make you better. So get a good bikini pro posing coach. I think that's super important if you're trying to move up the ranks. Now, the other thing is she's brought her upper body down. We talked about at the Wasatch, she brought it down 4 kilograms. So that's like 8.8 pounds in pounds. And I do think she's also down maybe another kilogram or two. She is coming in a lot more bikini than she was prior. Now, she still has holes in her physique. And this is one of the ones I was actually surprised with in her overall physique. So her glutes, as we talked about before, really powerful. Now, they were really only powerful from the front. The last time I saw her posing really heavy in her glute at the Wasatch, I saw her glute was really over dominant, right? But from the back, I didn't think it was crazy. It is a lot. It's still a lot of glutes, but hey, that's bikini. Bikini's a lot of glutes these days. But now one of the things that I saw on her overall physique was she still actually, you could see the separation line on her glutes here. She still needs a little bit more development on that medial glute, on that upper glute here, all through here. So all in that glute area, you could see when she's walking is just, there's more development to the lower part of the glute than the upper part of the glute here in this area. And you could see it when she walks, which I never saw before on her. So that's just an area of development that she needs to fine tune. She's going to have to work on her walk to fix that when she's walking, to not make it so obvious, because when she walks, you could really see the difference of the lower glute development versus the upper glute development. And that does come into play when you get into the walk. And when the walk happens, you see a lot of things that happen that the judges can't pick up on. And so some of these athletes, they look great in their pose. And as soon as they start walking, you see those holes. You see, oh, the density isn't where I thought it was. Oh, the glutes aren't as full as I thought they were. She looks really good pose. They look really full pose. But as soon as she starts walking, the holes pop up. So still needs a little bit, which is crazy because I was saying she's overdeveloped. And I don't think she really needs a lot more muscle growth, but maybe more density in the glutes to push her to the next level. But she's really, really fine tuning week by week, getting better week by week. Like, it's really nice to see her make these improvements because, 6 months ago, she was way too big for bikini. Then her first show, she was too big for bikini. Her second show back, I was like, she's still a little big for bikini. She's like on the muscular side, like definitely a little bit past her glutes are too dominant. And then now third show in, I'm like, oh, okay, she's actually looking pretty balanced. So posing, coming in with probably not as filling out as hard, I'm sure changing her workout, but she's really being a student of the game. And that's what bikini takes. It's going to take a lot of reps, a lot of fine tuning. You might realize, hey, I need to take another year off somewhere in there, but she's doing a good job. She's being a student of the game. I love seeing someone excel like she's excelling and making those minor changes. So going on to number 3, which was a surprise. Now, I'm not familiar with Shantel. I don't think I've seen her place this high before. I don't know a lot about her, but I saw her and I was like, wow, who's this? She's doing really great. She ended up in the, so she was in the first call out and she was actually holding split center with Ashley for a couple turns. I mean, she was there for a couple turns. They didn't move her out right away. It took them a little while to move her out and then move Marie in. So there was a time where she was arguing for second there, battling it out for first, really. And they were turning with Ashley and whatnot. So what does Shantel need to work on to make those improvements to keep that spot? Well, first off, in her front pose, she was already killing it. I mean, the front pose, very, very little to work on this front pose here. So when we're looking at the front pose, one of the main things is that the thing I see is her legs are a little bit thin still. You could see that the hamstring needs more development in that front pose. There's just not any roundness to this hamstring yet. And that's really what's hurting her, because you see her upper body, great lines, great clavicle width. I mean, from the front, great beauty, great hair, tan, makeup, all that. Conditioning is where it needs to be, but just the fullness of the legs, the density of the legs and fullness, it just needs more. She needs more upper glute. She needs more roundness to her hamstring. She needs more overall size to her quads to fill out her frame, to balance her from upper to lower body. And you could see that in her back pose too. When you pull up her back pose and you look closely at the hamstrings here, you see how you're getting separation lines in those hamstrings. You're getting a vertical separation of those hamstrings, and you're getting those gaps in there where you could see the actual the ham cords, we call them, the actual strings of the hamstring. You don't want to see separation in the hamstrings in bikini. You don't want to see those lines. So basically she needs more overall size. It's kind of counterintuitive. You would think, oh, more size is going to equal more hamstrings, right? It doesn't. If you look at a competitor, for example, like Ashley, who has really developed hamstrings, I mean, she's got probably some of the most round, bubbly hamstrings in the league, but she doesn't have any separation lines, right? So it comes down to just more development to get those hamstrings to not have this crazy separation, and actual having, posing control too. You can't push really hard in the back pose if you're getting this separation line. So all in all, really, really great physique. The tie-ins are awesome. Her waist to hip ratio is awesome. Her shoulders are awesome. I mean, she has a really good base, and she got a first call out, got third place at this show. Arguably could have been in second, but needs more overall size. She's one of those competitors where I do think she's going to need to take some time, probably going to have to take some time off for her to excel. If you look here at the hamstring specifically, you see how straight that hamstring is. very straight hamstring. She just needs some more development, some more roundness to that hamstring to really be moving up the ranks. But here's the thing in bikini, structurally, she has what it takes. So some girls, it's unfortunate when they get to the pro league. Like a lot of people can get to the pro league, and then doing well in the pro league is a different thing. You need a structure for it. You need the joints, the complexion, the tone. Like you need a lot of different factors that you're just kind of born with, or you're not. She has all those factors. So she has the good clavicle width, the good waistline, the good flow, the good joint size, the complexion, the beauty, everything she has everything, but she needs more size. So for her, my recommendation would be you're going to have to develop your lower body a good amount more, probably take the remainder of the year to do that. Come back hard next year because structure-wise, there's not, she's got a great structure. So we'll see what she does. It's nice seeing, I love seeing faces that I haven't seen before. No disrespect. Hopefully she, I hope to see her again. I'm not familiar with seeing her from before, but this one, she really broke out as like a star. And I was like, oh, this girl's pretty good. I don't know why I haven't seen her compete often. Maybe she's competed a lot. I don't know the history of her. So now moving on to Marie, who was in second place here. A lot of arguments for Marie. A lot of people were saying, oh, is it going to be Ashley? Is it going to be Marie? In bikini, you never know. I was worried about it too. I was like, I don't know. It's bikini. They can like her today. They can like Ashley today. But where did it go where Marie lost to Ashley in this show? And it's going to come down to the overall balance and the overall density. And that's really what it comes down to, is just being complete and not being 100% complete yet. But this girl, Marie, is really, really good. When she fine tunes and really completes her physique, man, she's going to be something to talk about. She is going to be really, really good. I love her. I love her physique. I love her flow. I love her complexion, her beauty, her lines, like the way the skin shines off of her. She is really, really good. Now, she does need more density, needs a little bit more size to be absolutely complete, but she's very close. This is someone who's pretty scary because she's doing this well, and she's probably at 90% of her maximum potential here. So she's still got another, let's say 5-10% to go before she maximizes that. And when she does, man, it's going to be a lot of problems for a lot of people. So awesome shoulder width, awesome waist width. Look at these lines. Great roundness of the hamstring like we're talking about. Now, when you see her in the walk, she doesn't have the density of the glutes of someone like Ashley. When she was in that back walk, you could see the glutes a little bit softer in that back walk. When you take a step and they're not holding that fullness, the judges are looking for the density and the fullness of the glutes even in the walk. And that is hurting some people when they're going to that walk stage that you won't see in the pictures. And that's the problem. Some of these shows, you got to kind of be there to see what's happening. You won't see that in the pictures where it's like, oh, it's really, really close. It's really, really close. And then they walk them and you're like, oh, it's actually not that close at all. It's a perfect score for Ashley. The density, the balance, the symmetry, everything's just a little bit better. And that you could really see the waistline too. That's the other thing about the walk is when you have someone walk to the back and then walk to the front, their waistline is fully exposed. So you see, oh, Ashley has a better hourglass, a smaller waistline. Just the shape is there, right? So then you realize, oh, okay, that's why I thought it was a little closer than I thought it was in the pictures, right? And so those are the little things, but she can still get better, and there's a lot of room here. So what can she do to get better? First off, this is very, very good. I think the tiniest bit in the shoulder. Remember, I said she's 90% already there, 10%, just a little bit more. Honestly, maybe even 95% there. A tiny bit more in the shoulder, a little bit more in the hamstring, and then the density of the glutes that you could see when she's walking. Now, the other holes that she had was her posing was a little inconsistent. That was something that I think that she can work on, make her posing a little bit better. You see here in this pose, her arm is pretty far out. You don't want that arm full out. You look over in this pose here. Oops, one too far. Look in this pose here. Look at how close her arm is. So this is the correct pose for her. And then you see her posing over here with the incorrect pose, too far out with the arm. The judges don't want to see that arm position that far out, just a little bit closer. So she's having variances in her posing, and that's something that's hurt her. The other thing you can see in the variances of her posing, look at how far back the shoulder is on this pose versus how the shoulder is on this pose. On one pose, she's showing good shoulder width and nice up top shoulder width. And the other pose, she's a little bit too bladed and losing her shoulder width, making her lose some upper body size. So she's kind of giving different poses on that front pose, and she needs to find that perfect pose, and she needs to find a way to hit it every single time. Needs to practice, because there's not a lot of holes there. At this point, you're fine tuning and just nitpicking on little tiny things. And for her, it's like, okay, if I see a picture of you at this show and I see a picture of you at another show, I want to be able to overlay those pictures on top of each other. I did this once with Jennifer Dory. I took a picture from her. It was from like a year apart. I took a picture from her. I think it was at Tampa, and a picture from her at like whatever, another show like a year later. I overlaid it, and her arm position, her foot position, her head position, everything was the exact same. You couldn't even tell it was a different show if you cropped her out of it. The positioning was absolutely the same. It was like a statue and a replication of another statue, and it was the exact same pose. That's what you need in bikini. You need to find your perfect front pose and do another perfect front pose every single time you turn around. You know, if you get a bodybuilder and you have him in his front double biceps, he's not going to have a different front double bicep every single time you see him posing, even multiple times in the show. So the consistency of the posing, of nailing it, I don't think it would have made a difference at this show. Ashley she's just that good. I mean, she's number 3 in the world, 3 years running, number 1 American, 3 years running. So it's like, it's going to be tough to beat her under any circumstance. But could she have made it a little bit closer? Probably with these little things, these little posing things. But the thing is that she's going to need is just a little bit more density too. I would like to see a little bit more shape out of her back too, just a little bit more V-taper too, because she's got a good waistline, but next to Ashley and next to someone with a really small waistline, if she gets next to an Ashley, an Issa, or someone like that, her waistline will look a little bigger, even though it's really small. Because these girls are so tapered. So the way that she can make that look smaller is by getting her shoulders just a tiniest bit bigger, by showing a little bit more V-taper in the back, and again, more density to the glutes. The shape and the tie-in of the glute is great. The hamstring development and the quad size from the back is great. From the front could be just a tiniest bit more, and that could even be a posing thing, not necessarily an actual development thing. It could just be a posing thing for her too. But a lot of this is in her posing. Maybe she doesn't even need as much width in her back. Maybe she can open up a tiny bit in her back and give another inch and doesn't need that much more development. But these are all the fine tuning things that you do with an athlete at the end to make her go from 10th place to first place. It's going to be just these little tiny things. I'm talking at like a world level, not at a clash level. So now moving on to Ashley. As we talked about, obviously Ashley won this show. She won it with a perfect score. Now this is Ashley's first show back since her eye surgery. Critiques from the judges, they said, hey, come in a little bit harder at the next show. This is, Ashley's been bringing in a little bit of a fuller and a little bit, I don't want to say a softer package always, but a little bit fuller package. You saw her in Japan, she was fuller, but when you have fullness, you're going to lose a little bit of that hardness. Being 100% full and 100% hard is not really going to be a thing for most people. It's really, really hard to be 100% full and 100% hard. That margin of error is you're going to be, if you go a little bit fuller, you're going to probably be a little bit softer. You go a little bit harder, you're probably going to be a little bit flatter. Trying to nail 100% is something that you generally don't want to shoot for, even as a coach, because you're always going to overshoot if you're shooting for 100% fullness, because it's too hard to time it perfectly when you have like an hour of that margin. So she's been this show. She was a little bit softer than we would have preferred. Now, I will say on the East Coast, you got to be a little bit leaner going into the East Coast because you can hold a little bit of water. On Wednesday before she flew out, so she was here on Wednesday. We did posing and all that. She did soften up a little bit. The humidity looks like it got to her a little bit come Saturday when she flew out there, but not that much. But it is enough to make her just a tiniest bit softer. And that was the feedback from the judges. They're like, she's too good everywhere. Her density was on. Her fullness is on, her balance is on, her stage presence was on. Now, what's crazy is we only have pictures from the morning show, but at the night show, by the night show came around, she really tightened up quite a bit. I think the humidity really did play a role in it too, because basically what we did, we kept her water kind of minimal that day, which we don't usually do. Usually we go on the other side of it, and then she tightened up a little bit, and everyone's like, what'd you guys do at night? We're like, she just didn't drink that much water. She tightened up a lot, but it was still more than enough to win. She's tightening up, and you're going to be seeing her again really, really soon. But why is Ashley so dominant? So the reason that she's so dominant is because of her balance is that good. And that's the thing about bikini. Bikini is about balance, stage presence. There's so many factors that go into it outside of just conditioning. Now, the conditioning on her was still there. It was still probably 95, 96% of her best. You don't want to be, she's one that they like a little bit on the leaner side. This level of conditioning would be the same level of conditioning you'd see on a lot of top Olympians. But for Ashley, they like her a tiny bit leaner. But this is similar conditioning that you'd see like of a Maureen, of a Jennifer, something like that. But they do like Ashley a little bit harder. And as you can see, every competitor, they're going to like a different way. They do prefer Ashley a little bit on the leaner side, which is a positive and a negative. Her lines look best when she's leaner. But when you get that lean and you have to always present a harder package, you're going to be a little smaller too. So that's the disadvantage. If fat equals more size. So if you're able to come in 2% softer than another athlete, Ashley will have the disadvantage of being leaner, so therefore going to have to be a little bit smaller. She's going to have that 2% less size, right? Because she's has to be a lot leaner than other people. So with that being said, the reason that she wins is her balance. Her balance is just so good. She's got that tiny waistline. Her legs and glutes this year, you're looking at them, and they are you're looking at more density of the glutes and the hamstrings. Now, she had to take off time for her eye. She's been lifting hard, lifting heavy, and I do think that she's put on some good development in her glutes and hamstrings, or I wouldn't say hamstrings, but her glute density, I should say. Her glute density is there. You're seeing her tines, which actually makes it a little bit harder to know when she's 100% ready, because her tines are showing even better now than before, and it used to not come in till the end. And she had to be so lean for those tines to come in, and now her tines are coming in with her being a tiny bit softer. So it's like a recalibration of where and when to bring Ashley in, because of her tines are showing now with being a little bit softer conditioning, which is a scary thing for a lot of you competitors out there, because she's bringing a different level. I wouldn't say totally different level, but an improved level of those glutes and hamstrings this year. So, look out for Ashley. Her balance is always on. Her stage presence was on at the night show. I do think in the morning show, she's just getting her feet wet again, and she wasn't her best on her stage presence, but her posing was. Her posing was great. When she hit her poses, I think that it was a little bit calibrated, a little bit too thought out when she was doing her initial presentation. But at night, she killed it. She was like, okay, I'm back. I had to get that stage rust off of me. I'm back. And now she got that first show in, and now expect to start seeing her go on a run. But yeah, perfect score for Ashley. She's just Ashley. She brought it, and she's going to be bringing it again soon. So that's the wrap up from the Clash. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. I'm going to be doing a Pittsburgh Pro pre-show. We have some big news on the Pittsburgh Pro. It is going to be a real throwdown, this Pittsburgh Pro. So there's going to be some real athletes showing into this Pittsburgh Pro. This level, this Pittsburgh Pro is going to be better than some of these. It's going to be arguably going to speak in contention right there with the Arnold. You got Ashley is jumping into the Pittsburgh Pro. You have Amy jumping into the Pittsburgh Pro. Looks like Ariana's doing it. Looks like Vanya's doing it, right? So it's going to be a real throwdown. This is like a junior Olympia, this Pittsburgh Pro. So I think it warrants a pre-show analysis. What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments here. But thank you guys so much for watching. Keep those questions coming. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. And I will be jumping into these as often as I can throughout this year. Thank you.